One quiet night in the early 1990s, residents across parts of Metro Manila looked up and saw something they could not explain. Bright lights moved silently across the sky, hovering, drifting, then vanishing without a sound. Dozens of witnesses reported the same strange sight. Planes make noise, helicopters vibrate the air, but these objects moved like shadows in the sky. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they were gone. In 1993, several residents in parts of Metro Manila, particularly in areas south of the capital such as Las Piñas, began reporting unusual lights moving across the night sky. The reports did not initially attract much attention. In a city of millions, strange sights are often dismissed as aircraft, distant fireworks, or reflections from passing satellites. But as the reports spread, something unusual became clear. Multiple witnesses from different neighborhoods described seeing objects that behaved in ways conventional aircraft simply did not. What made these sightings particularly interesting was the consistency in the descriptions. Witnesses spoke of bright lights hovering in place before slowly drifting away. Others described disc-like shapes that appeared metallic when illuminated by city lights. Several people even claimed the objects accelerated rapidly before disappearing completely. None of the witnesses reported hearing engines or rotor blades. The events that followed would later be remembered by some researchers as one of the lesser-known UFO waves in Southeast Asia. While the sightings never reached the global attention of famous UFO cases in the United States or Europe, they remain a fascinating example of how unexplained events can briefly capture the imagination of an entire community. To understand why the sightings in the Philippines attracted curiosity, it helps to place them within the broader history of UFO reports around the world. Reports of unidentified objects in the sky are not new. Modern interest in UFOs largely began in 1947 when American pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing several fast-moving objects while flying near Mount Rainier in Washington state. Arnold described the objects as moving like saucers skipping across water, a phrase that soon led newspapers to popularize the term flying saucer. Throughout the following decades, thousands of similar sightings were reported across the United States and other countries. Governments even launched official investigations. In the United States, the U.S. Air Force created Project Blue Book, which operated from 1952 to 1969 and investigated more than 12,000 UFO reports. The majority were eventually explained as aircraft, balloons, astronomical objects, or atmospheric phenomena. Today, the term UFO has largely been replaced in official discussions by the phrase UAP, which stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. This term is used by scientists and defense agencies to describe objects or lights in the sky that cannot immediately be identified. Against this global backdrop, the Philippine sightings of the early 1990s became part of a much larger pattern of unexplained aerial reports around the world. One of the earliest and most frequently mentioned sightings occurred in Las Piñas, a growing city located just south of central Manila. According to witness accounts later circulated in local communities, several teenagers were outside one evening when they noticed an unusual object in the sky above their neighborhood. At first, the group assumed it was a distant airplane approaching Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Air traffic is common over Metro Manila, and aircraft lights are familiar in the night sky. But the object they were looking at did not behave like an airplane. As the witnesses continued watching, the object slowly drifted sideways. The motion was smooth and silent. Then, according to the witnesses, the object suddenly accelerated and disappeared from view within seconds. Moments later, neighbors began stepping outside their homes after hearing the teenagers talking excitedly about what they had seen. Several people claimed they had noticed the same light moments earlier. If several people saw the same object at the same time, what exactly was it? Within weeks, similar stories began circulating in other parts of Metro Manila. Residents described seeing lights moving slowly across the sky late at night. In several accounts, witnesses claimed that 2 or 3 lights appeared together and seemed to move in coordinated patterns. For many people, the sightings were brief. A light might appear for only a few seconds before vanishing behind buildings or clouds. But the descriptions shared several common elements. The lights were usually bright white or slightly reddish. They appeared to hover for short periods before drifting away. Anyone who has stood beneath a low-flying aircraft knows how loud engines can be. Helicopters are even louder, producing a distinctive rhythmic noise that can be heard from miles away. Yet witnesses consistently reported that these lights produced no sound at all. One of the most widely discussed moments of the sightings occurred when several witnesses reported seeing more than one object in the sky at the same time. According to accounts shared in the community, the lights appeared in a loose formation before slowly spreading apart. Some witnesses described the movement as almost deliberate, as if the lights were responding to each other's positions. Others suggested the objects might simply have been satellites reflecting sunlight at different angles. But what made the sighting unusual was the apparent change in direction. Satellites move along predictable paths across the sky, yet several observers insisted the lights shifted direction before disappearing. That sudden change in movement was one of the details that made the reports difficult to explain using simple astronomical causes. Despite the number of eyewitness accounts, the sightings left investigators with several unanswered questions. One of the most significant challenges was the lack of photographic evidence. In the early 1990s, portable cameras were far less common than they are today. Most people simply watched the lights for a few moments before they vanished. Another issue was the difficulty of verifying exact dates and times for many sightings. Witnesses often recalled events days or weeks later, making it difficult to determine whether the reports described separate incidents or the same object seen from different locations. Without precise records, reconstructing the timeline of events became extremely challenging for anyone trying to investigate the case. And finally, there was the question of whether the objects were even related to one another. Human memory can sometimes connect separate events into a single narrative, especially when people share stories with friends and neighbors. Over the years, several explanations have been suggested for what witnesses might have seen in the skies above Metro Manila. One possibility is that the sightings involved conventional aircraft observed under unusual lighting conditions. Another explanation involves astronomical objects. Bright planets, such as Venus, are often mistaken for hovering lights, particularly when atmospheric conditions cause them to shimmer or change color. Some researchers have also suggested that the sightings may have involved satellites reflecting sunlight shortly after sunset or before sunrise. These reflections can create bright, moving lights that appear unexpectedly and then fade quickly. Finally, there is the possibility that several different natural and human-made phenomena were observed during the same period, and later stories simply merged them into a single narrative. Even today, the reported sightings of 1993 remain a topic occasionally discussed among enthusiasts of unexplained phenomena in the Philippines. While the events never produced definitive evidence of anything extraordinary, they continued to spark curiosity about what people may have seen. The night sky has always inspired both wonder and speculation. From ancient civilizations studying the stars to modern pilots encountering unidentified objects, humans have long tried to understand the lights that appear above us. Mysteries like the reported UFO sightings in the Philippines remind us how many questions still remain about the world around us. Whether these lights were satellites, aircraft, atmospheric effects, or something else entirely, they show how a single unexplained event can capture people's attention for decades. If you enjoy exploring real mysteries, strange sightings, and unexplained events from across Asia and the world, make sure to like and subscribe. Each episode investigates fascinating stories that blur the line between science, history, and the unknown. And sometimes, the next mystery might already be waiting somewhere above us.